Hey everybody. In this next video, I'm going to show you guys how to set up the level change. So in the past two videos, we covered player movement. So your player should be moving left, right, and jumping with animations for all those stages. So idle, walk, and jump. And then we set up these spikes. So whenever the player collides with the spikes, they should die and restart the level. So we will start sharing, or I'll start sharing my screen, and we will jump right in. So to get us started, what we'll want to do is in level 1, I have my player here. Now, one thing that I have done, and one thing you should make sure to do, is select your player and hit this overrides button. If you don't have anything like this, you should be good. But in the last video, I didn't really cover it. I made changes. And so what you want to do is there should be a button that says apply all, and you'll hit that apply all button. And what that will do is apply all changes that we've made to our character in this scene, in our level 1 scene, and it will apply all those changes to every instance of our player. So in level 2, level 3, and level 4. You'll want to do that with the spikes as well. So if you click on the spikes, then you should see this overrides button. You'll drop this down and you'll see a button that says apply all right there. Now, again, I have applied all of these settings or all of these changes, but that's just something to keep in mind. If your character isn't walking or your spikes aren't working or something isn't working like it was in another level, check that you've applied everything. Now, you need to apply this from the scene that you were working on. So in this case, I am in scene 1 or level 1, so that's where I'm applying my changes from because this is where I've been working. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just jump right into it. I'll select my flag. This is going to be the objective marker, and this is going to be what moves my character to the next level. So what we'll need to do is add a component, and we'll add a script machine. So I already have script in here, so I'll just click on that. And what I'm going to do is actually, instead of choosing a graph, I am going to choose embed. And what this does is instead of creating a graph in my macros, I'm going to just be embedding a script right onto this object. So I'll do this and I'll just hit edit graph. And if I open this up, you'll see that I have on start and on update. I do not need any of these here. So what I'm going to do is just select these and delete them. And now what I'm going to be doing is checking for an on collision enter. Or I'm checking to see, the idea of this objective is I'm checking to see if the player is colliding with my flag or my objective game object. And if so, then I want to load another scene. So the first node that I'm going to look for is called on collision enter. And I want to make sure that I'm using 2D. And so from here, I'm going to select my collider, and I'm going to say this is going to be a game object, and I'm going to compare my tag. This probably seems familiar, right? I'm going to look for a game object with a tag of player. Again, pretty similar to what we did with the spikes. And then I'm going to choose an if statement. And this is going to be my condition here. So if we look up here, I notice that this if statement is yellow. If I look in my inspector, it says condition is missing. My condition is a bool. So I'm going to just grab this and check that, connect that up there. So we're all good. If true, then I'm going to look for my scene manager. And I'm going to load a scene just by its name. There we go. And the scene that I want to load is going to be, in this case, level 2. But the idea is that I want to create this script once, and I want to be able to use it for all of the flags in all of my levels. So all of the objective or the end goals should use the same script. Now, if I use level 2 right here, then I'm going to send the player to level 2 at the end of every single level. So we'll have a problem there. So instead of typing in level 2, what I'm going to do is type in a get variable, and this is going to be an object variable. There we go. And I'm going to call this object variable scene. Now, I do not have this object variable set. And it looks like I'm getting a little error here. This is something different. I'm not going to worry about that. Now, don't have a variable set yet. So to do that, what I'm going to do is jump out of my inspector or my script graph inspector, and I'm going to go to my object. I'm going to make sure it's selected. I can either select it in my scene view up here or my hierarchy view. So if I hit objective and then I go back into my script graph, now what I'm going to do is go over to the left on my blackboard. I'm going to hit this object button and I'm going to add a new variable. I'm going to call this scene, and I'm going to spell it the same exact way as I have down here. And I'm going to hit the plus sign, and this is going to be a string, and I'm going to call this level 2. There we go. So now I should be set. So I'm just going to move this over a little bit. And so this is what I'm actually detecting my collision with, and this is what I'm doing once I detect my collision. So let's play and see if this works. Okay, my player is moving. I can jump over here, and I can jump over to my platform, and let's see what happens when I walk into my flag. Okay, scene 2 has loaded. And because I overrode my changes or applied all my changes, I can move and jump in this level 2. If you didn't do that, then you won't be able to do this. Now, if you're watching this and you're saying, all right, well, that didn't work for me. It's telling me that I'm getting some error down in the bottom about level 2 not being found in my build settings or something like that. That's going to happen. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. I'm going to go to File, Build Settings, and I'm going to show you what you're probably experiencing already. So you'll notice that I have several kind of items in here. All right, so I'm going to close out of here, and now let's play. This is probably what you'll experience at first. So if I go to my flag and interact with it, you'll notice that I'm now getting this error. It says level 2 couldn't be loaded because it has not been added to the build settings or the asset bundle has not been loaded. So what you need to do if you're getting this error, and you'll likely be getting this, what you're going to do is hit File. You'll go to your build settings. And here, this is the window I just pulled up. Here we can see our build settings. This is effectively showing us what levels will be in our game once we create our game, once we're playing it outside of the Unity editor. Now, by default, you'll see probably a scenes and sample scene. You won't see level 1 in here directly. So what you need to do, and this is an easy fix, if you have level 1 already open in your scene view, you can hit Add Open Scenes. Now, when I do this, it adds level 1 in there automatically. I can also go to my project panel. I can go to my scenes folder. And what I can do is drag and drop all of my other scenes in here. So if I drag level 2 in and drop it in, and I'll go ahead and drag level 3 and level 4 and my HUD scene and my main menu. There we go. And I'm actually going to put my menu at the very top because when my player plays the game, I want them to start with my menu. Everything else is non-consequential for the most part, but you want that menu to be first. And you want to make sure just all of these levels are in there and they are all checked. Okay, so now that I have level 2 in here, I'm going to play again, and this should work. There we go, and I'm sent to level 2. Perfect. Okay, so this is working fine. This is working great. But I can clean this up and make this a little bit tighter and more modular. So if I click on my flag again or my game objective, I go to my script graph, and let's zoom in and take a look at this. These 3 nodes right here are just checking for my player collision. I do this for my spikes as well, and in the future, we'll be doing a collision check with other objects. Now, there's a rule of thumb in game design and just general kind of development that you don't want to repeat yourself. So don't repeat yourself. DRY, it's called the dry method. You want to go dry. So to do this, what I'm going to do is actually copy and paste these 3 nodes, and I'm going to make a super unit or just one single node that does what this needs to do. And what this will do is this will help me keep my flow graphs or my script graphs clean. It will help me create more tighter logic and logic that I can easily just iterate and use modular pieces instead of having to create everything from scratch every single time I do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 3 units. Again, I am in my game objective script graph. I'm going to hit Control C to copy. I'm going to jump out of here. What I'm going to do is go to my project. I'm going to go to macros, and I'm going to create a new macro. I'm going to right click, go up to create, visual scripting and script graph. And I'm going to call this on collision with capital O, capital C, capital W, with no spaces. This is called camel case. This is a naming convention that's common in Unity and a lot of game development. It's really up to you if you want to use it, but this just helps stay organized and stay consistent. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to hit edit graph. So I'll open this up. And now we see that I just have a blank graph. So what I'm going to do is Control V to paste. There we go. And this is going to be my basic structure of my collision. Now, if I were to throw this unit into my objective graph, so I'm going to close this out. I'll select my flag, come in here. I'm going to delete these 3. I'm going to right click and add a node, and I'll call it on collision with. And we see that my on collision with is showing up. And if I click on it, notice how it's just a box right now. I can't hook it up anywhere, right? So this is a problem. So I need to add input and output values for this. So I can get back to my on collision with graph either by double clicking on here and opening it up. And then I'll also see a little breadcrumb. So I'm in my on collision with up here. But then if I drop back, I can go to my objective. I can also just go to my project and double click on my on collision, and it'll open it up. So once I get back to my on collision graph, what I'm going to do is right click in the left. I'm going to add a node, and I'll call it input. And I'm looking for the input in nesting. So this one right here has a little green arrow. And I'm going to right click and add an output. And this is in nesting as well. So you'll notice again, these don't have any hooks. There's no like connectors right here. So what I need to do is add input and output values that are appropriate for my collision detection. So what I'm going to do is just select off of any node and into just like my graph. And now if I look over to the left in my graph inspector, I see several inputs and outputs. I have trigger inputs and outputs, and I have data inputs and outputs. So triggers are going to be things that we're connecting to that we're looking for. And data input and output are going to be specific instances or specific collections of data that we're actually editing and checking for. So that might be a little confusing, but just follow along with this. So we're going to start by adding 2 trigger outputs. I'm going to hit this plus sign under trigger outputs. I'm going to call one tag or excuse me, target. So this is going to be the target that we're looking for, the target of our object or whatever object this is that we're hooked up to. Notice how whenever I click off of that, you'll see this little node right in my outputs, or this is the target line essentially. And then I'm going to add another trigger output called other. And all right, if I click out of that, you'll see that I add another other line here. Now, next, I'm going to go to data inputs. So just going down the list, I'm hit a plus sign, and we're going to call this tag. Oh, sorry. I said data input. Oh, yeah, that's right. So for type, this is going to be a type string. And we're going to check the has default value. And we're just going to leave that default value blank for now. And then finally, we're going to add a single data output. And this is going to be called object. Make sure you spell everything right. And then this is going to be a type of a game object. All right. A value output definition was okay, so I didn't add a key in or a phrase in here, it looks like. So I'm just going to type in object. There we go. So now we should all be set. So right in my input, I have a tag. It is a string value. I can tell by this orange little dot. And then in my output, I have target, other, and object. So now what I'm going to do is just hook this up. For my true statement, I'm going to go to target. For false, I'm going to go to other. For object in my output, I'm actually going to be looking at my collider, which is going to be my player in this case. And then for my tag, I'm just going to hook this right up to my compare object. So instead of typing in player, I'm actually going to have the option to determine what kind of tag I want to use. Now, this is my on collision with. This is set up so now that I can use this for any instance where two objects are colliding and I want an event to occur. So what I'm going to do is back out a little bit. So I'm just going to open this up. I'm going to select on my object. And now if I open this up, we can see that that on collision with that I first put in there now has several other hooks and tags and kind of options, right? So now from here, what I'm going to do is select my target and just send it right to my load scene. I'm going to add tag of player, see that we can actually input this in the on collision with. And so now I'm checking for my player to load in and hit this flag and then load into a new scene. So this should work. Let's double check. Okay. All right, it is still working. Wonderful. So I have effectively made a cleaned up singular node that addresses several of the issues or that I will have in the future and that I've already addressed. So what I can do is I can actually use this for my spikes too. So I will select my spikes. Let's open this up. And now look at that. These three nodes look pretty familiar, right? So I can delete all three of these. I can type in on collision with. There we go. And we'll make our target over here, our object hooked up to our object, and we'll type in player for our tag. And now let's check to see if our spikes still work. Remember, this is for the spikes. I just added this new kind of on collision with super node super node is what they're called. Here we go, or super unit, excuse me. So let's test to make sure that this collision check works with our spikes. There we go. It still works. Perfect. So this on collision with is going to be extremely powerful, and we'll be using this later down the road. Now, there's one more thing that we want to do. In the future, we'll be working on creating a main menu. And in that main menu, you'll be able to select levels that you've previously unlocked. Now, to finish up our objective or the flag that sends us to new levels, what we'll also want to add is an unlock or a level unlock feature. So to do that, we'll be using saved variables. And what saved variables do, I'll open my script graph. Similar to our object variables, this is a way to save data, but our saved variables over here save information throughout gameplay. So even if you close down your game, these saved variables will still remember, oh, the last time they played, they unlocked level 2. And the last time they played, they unlocked level 3. So if you make it to level 3, you close down the game, open it back up, you'll still have level 2 and 3 unlocked in the main menu. Now, this is one of the great features of visual scripting. This is kind of built in and a little bit more accessible than trying to code this using C#. So what we'll do is, again, I'm going to start with selecting my objective, my flag here. I'm going to open this up. And now I'm going to start adding in components to unlock my level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating a new scene or a new variable. So I'm going to go to object. I have my scene already set up, right? And actually, I think that's all I need to do. So I'm good for now, actually. And I'll address this here shortly. Actually, I will go ahead and address this now. If I go to, before we start getting into the saved variables, I just want to go to level 2 real quick and show you guys. Let's see, scene, level 2. I'm going to save. I'm going to click on my flag and notice that I did not override my changes. So I don't see the script that I already made. So if my player interacts with this door, they're not going to be, or this flag, they're not going to do anything. And I'm going to move this flag over right about here, just so we can test it out. There we go. Because I haven't set up the door and key mechanics just yet. So what I'm going to do is go back to level 1. I'm actually not going to save this. I'm going to hit my flag, and I'm going to go up to overrides. And this is what I mentioned earlier. You should see apply all. So if I hit apply all, this will make changes to my graph or to my flag across every instance of my flag. So if I go to level 2, hit save. Now, if I click on my flag, we see that it has my embedded graph. Now, what I need to do is go over to my script graph. And I'm actually going to change this from embedded and to a graph. Oh, I'm going to cancel. I'm going to hit convert. And I'm going to turn this embedded graph into an actual macro. So this is kind of backwards. I'm going to call this objective. Hit enter. And now what I can do, I'm going to hit override and apply all. There we go. So now if I open the scene up, I see my objective. Notice how this is still level 2. So this means whenever I finish level 2, it's going to send me back to level 2. So what I want to do is just go into each level and point this scene variable or point this object variable to the next level. Now, this is one time where I do not want to apply overrides, because if I apply that, it's going to make every single flag send it to the other flag or send it to the same level. So I'm going to go back to project. I'm going to go to level 3. I'll save. Select my flag. Go to my script graph. Go down to my objects and make this level 4, actually. Because this is level 3, it should send our player to level 4. All right, I'm going to hit Control S to save. And then I'm going to level 4, and we'll make this flag take us to the main menu. I'm going to go to script graph. I'm going to hit my object tab, and I'm just going to type in menu, because that's the name of our scene, our menu scene. So right here, menu. There we go. So now I'm going to hit Control S again to save, and I'm going to go back to level 1. All right, now we're going to go back to our save data. So I'm going to click on my flag again, open up my script graph, and open this wide open. Okay, so now to add a save value, what I'm going to do is actually unconnect this on collision with. I'm going to take my target, and I'm going to send it to a set variable. And this is going to be a saved variable. And we're going to call this, I'm going to link this right back to my load scene. So what I'm doing is saying whenever my player collides with this object, I'm going to set a saved variable, which I'll do here shortly. And then I'm going to load a scene, which is going to be the next scene. Okay, so for our set variable, we're going to be concatenating 2 string values. What that means is we're just adding 2 things together. Whenever we're talking about adding 2 things together, when they're a string is just a line of characters. This can be letters or numbers, but they're read as essentially read only. These numbers do not have any numerical value. They're just a character. So for this, what I'm going to do is go to concat, and I'm going to look for 2 arguments, because I'm adding 2 lines of information. My first argument is going to be I'm going to be getting a variable. It's going to be an object variable, and I'm going to be pulling the scene variable. In this case, this will say scene or level 2, and then we want to add a string literal, and this will be underscored unlocked. There we go. And then for this little condition for our set variable, this is going to be a Boolean value, and this is going to be a Boolean literal, and we're going to check this. So a Boolean value just means it's a yes or no value. It's a true or false statement. It's a check or unchecked. So essentially what this is saying, and I'm going to kind of portion all this out now. This is going to be my unlock level sequence. And this is going to be my change level or load level. Okay, so we're starting with our player collision. Whenever our player collides with the flag, we are setting a save variable. And this variable is going to be checking a Boolean value for our scene, in this case, level 2. And it's going to say level 2 unlocked is checked. So level 2 is unlocked. So we don't have anything in our save variables now because we haven't played yet. After we save and unlock our level for the main menu, we're going to load the next level by going to load scene and the current scene that's selected. Again, level 2. So I'm going to override my, it looks like I can't override any changes. Well, let's play and see if this works. Okay, so what I'm going to do is scroll down and I'll select my save variables. Notice how I don't have any saved variables down here, right? Let's see if I hit my objective, still nothing. If I hit my player, no saved variables. So let's play and see with my saved variables. Let's watch down here and see if anything shows up when I hit my level 2. There we go. So I saw it really quick. I select my player and hit save. Now I have level 2 is unlocked. So I know that this is working. Perfect. So I'm going to hit out of play mode. I'm going to select my objective. I'm going to go to overrides and I don't have any changes to be made. So I should be all good. Now, again, the last thing that I just want to double check is to go through each level and make sure that now my object variable for scene, my scene object variable, is pointing in the right direction. So level 1 should always point to level 2. Let's go to level 2, hit my flag, go to my object variable in my script graph. This points to level 3. That means whenever I hit this flag in level 2, it should send me to level 3. Now let's check level 4. I will select my my flag here, go to script graph, hit my object tab in my Blackboard panel, scroll down. This is taking me to the menu. So this is level 4. That's right. That's good. Let's see, I guess I must have missed level 3. There we go. Let's select that flag, and that should send me to level 4. So select my flag, script graph, object, and level 4. There we go. So we should all be good. All right. And again, I tested this in level 1. Let's test it one more time. And we'll check my save variables, and level 2 is unlocked. Perfect. So that is how you set up the level change in Unity. So good luck.